Today is Monday, July 10th. What to know about flash flooding affecting several states, including the impact to travelers and how long it's expected to last. Also, the latest efforts to rein in surprise healthcare costs and new hazing allegations against a major college football team. Plus, why a famous comedian is suing the company behind ChatGPT, the most recent pop star to get hurt in what seems to be a new trend at concerts. And she's already won 2 World Cups and an Olympic gold medal. We'll tell you what's next for this iconic athlete. Those stories and more news to know in today's episode. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Tens of millions of Americans are now facing a threat of flash flooding. This time, it's the northeastern U.S. at risk from North Carolina to New Hampshire. Storms started yesterday with half a foot of rain or more falling in some areas. West Point, which is home to the U.S. Military Academy, was severely flooded, and officials worry some historic buildings could be damaged. Some homes have been damaged in New York and New England, too. Roads were flooded, and drivers had to be rescued. An Amtrak train headed from Albany to New York City was forced to turn around because the tracks were washed out. And thousands of flights ended up being canceled, mostly out of New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. Hundreds more flights have already been canceled for today since the storm threat continues until at least tomorrow morning. People who live in basement apartments in New York City are being told they should be ready to move to higher ground. And Vermont's governor issued a state of emergency to make more state resources available to respond whenever they're needed. President Biden is in the UK this morning for a trip the White House says is a chance to strengthen the close relationship between our nations. Today, Biden is meeting with British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak for the 6th time since Sunak took office in October. They're expected to talk about the NATO summit coming up later this week and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Then later today, Biden is set to meet with King Charles at Windsor Castle. The two will talk about climate change and work to get funding for some climate initiatives. Next, Biden will travel to Lithuania for the NATO summit. This is a pretty big summit, too, since the allies will be reviewing their first defense plans in decades and talk about possibly accepting new members. Then the president is off to Finland to meet with Nordic leaders. And again, the focus of those talks is expected to be on Ukraine. Well, unfortunately, we have to tell you about 2 more mass shootings that happened over the weekend. First, police say a gunman on a scooter killed an 87-year-old man and hurt 3 other people in a random shooting spree in New York City. Videos apparently show the shooter was not targeting or following anyone, just randomly firing his gun across Brooklyn and Queens. Officers say they arrested a suspect, but so far have not released a motive. Separately, 9 people were hurt in a mass shooting in downtown Cleveland, Ohio yesterday. Police say a shooter opened fire toward crowds who were leaving different nightclubs as they were closing. So far, investigators say the shooting came without warning and without any kind of fight earlier in the night. They apparently have some leads, but as of this morning, they haven't released any info about a suspect, a motive, or an arrest. Northwestern University suspended its head football coach over hazing allegations. And now former players are coming forward with their stories. One told the student newspaper, the Daily Northwestern, the coach would clap over his head when a player didn't perform well in practice, and that upperclassmen would take that as a signal to go after that player. Sometimes he said the hazing would include sexual misconduct, like having to do naked drills, but not everyone backs that up. Several news outlets received a statement over the weekend that said the hazing allegations were exaggerated and twisted. The statement was signed by, quote, the entire Northwestern football team. Coach Pat Fitzgerald also said he didn't know about any hazing, but that he will do better moving forward. His suspension will last for 2 weeks without pay. Plus, from now on, someone will be monitoring the locker room. There will be a new online reporting tool for student athletes to anonymously report hazing. All coaches and student athletes will have to go through anti-hazing training every year and more. U.S. senators are returning from their summer recess to a busy agenda. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer sent his colleagues a letter yesterday laying out their plans for the next 3 weeks. He says he wants to see votes on all kinds of issues, like drug pricing, a response to opioids, online safety, rail safety, farm policy, and more. Tomorrow, senators will also receive a classified briefing from the Pentagon and intelligence officials about artificial intelligence. And the Senate Judiciary Committee says it's going to work on a code of ethics for the U.S. Supreme Court. Plus, senators will vote on whether to confirm new federal judges. And there will be discussions about how to improve economic competition from China. Now, this all comes as the Senate has been criticized for dragging its feet over the last 7 months, while the U.S. House has been passing bills. But since most of those bills were approved along party lines, they're expected to die in the Senate, where it's more evenly split between Democrats and Republicans. Since remember, a bill has to get passed in both chambers and signed by the president before it can become law. Now, Schumer says he hopes both sides of the aisle can come together and find common ground. To be continued. We'll be talking about hidden healthcare fees, a new trend at concerts, and more news still ahead. But first, a break to thank our sponsor, AG1. So, of course, I hope you've made this podcast part of your everyday routine and that you feel more informed and have better conversations because of it. But now, if you're looking for a new simple daily habit to add into that could help you feel boosted energy and that you're giving your body the nutrition it craves, then consider AG1. That's at least how I feel now that I drink AG1 every day. I drink it before I've eaten anything else, and it makes me feel like I've set myself up for success for the rest of the day. With this one step of mixing a scoop of AG1 and water, maybe some ice and lemon juice, I immediately am signaling to myself that I care about my body, I care about my health, and that I want to feel good and energized today, and that I'm willing to take the necessary action. I truly notice a difference in my days. I feel sustained energy, improved digestion, and even more supported for mental clarity and focus. So if you're looking for a simpler, effective investment for your health, try AG1. And you can get 5 free AG1 travel packs and a free 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase. So go to drinkag1.com/newsworthy. That's drinkag1.com/newsworthy. Check it out. A group of clergymen is being promoted to the highest ranking within the Catholic Church. Pope Francis announced he's naming 21 new cardinals who will serve as his closest advisors. They include clergy from places like Jerusalem and Hong Kong, where Catholics are a small minority. There's also an American, Archbishop Robert Francis Prevost, who will lead the department that helps the Pope choose new bishops. Others are from Italy, Spain, Portugal, Colombia, South Africa, and more. 18 of the 21 are younger than 80, and that means they'll be able to vote for whoever succeeds 86-year-old Pope Francis. Reuters says Francis has now installed 73% of the cardinals who will take that vote, making it more likely the next pope will share his vision of a more inclusive, progressive church. The ceremony to install all the new cardinals will be held in September. The White House is taking some new steps in an effort to lower healthcare costs, or at least make sticker shock a little less likely. First, it's targeting surprise facility fees. Those are the extra charges hospitals tack on when they provide services in an outpatient location. Sometimes those fees are even added to telehealth visits. But now the Biden administration plans to force health plans and providers to share information about these fees so patients know about them ahead of time. Second, the White House wants to limit short-term insurance policies. Those plans are typically cheaper, but come with some trade-offs. Like they don't have to cover the essentials, they can deny coverage based on pre-existing conditions, and cap how much they'll pay in a year. So the federal government wants to limit them to 3 months of coverage, and it wants the insurance companies to be upfront about what they will and won't cover. Those are just a couple of the main sticking points in this initiative. The Biden administration also says it's cracking down on hidden fees elsewhere, increasing oversight of companies from hotels to banks to airlines to concert venues. We know artificial intelligence companies take tons of information to train their chatbots. But what if the information is copyrighted? That's the question being asked in multiple courts right now. Authors, including comedian Sarah Silverman, are suing OpenAI and Meta. They say the companies use their books without authorization to develop their so-called large language models. ChatGPT will even summarize their books when it's asked to do so. But at least one lawsuit says those summaries get some of the details wrong. Now the authors are seeking damages. So far, no response from OpenAI or Meta, but The Verge says this could end up challenging the very limits of copyright law. And there's a disturbing trend happening at concerts these days. Musicians on stage keep being hit by objects thrown from the crowd. And in some cases, they're getting really hurt. In the latest incident, someone threw something at Harry Styles and hit him in the eye. He bent over, covered his face, and walked off stage, clearly in pain. And this comes after a series of similar incidents over the last month. In New York City, singer Bebe Rexha was hit in the face by a phone, leaving her with a black eye. Kelsey Ballerini was hit by a bracelet in Idaho recently. And in Miami, Kid Cudi was struck by a water bottle. He warned the crowd that if more things got thrown on the stage, he would end the show early. Well, another object was thrown, and he did cut it short. It's not clear exactly what's behind this trend, but Deadline says these concert goers are just hoping to create a moment that can be captured on social media to increase their clout. But at least in the case of the person who threw his phone at Bebe Rexha, he ended up getting arrested instead. One of the most legendary American soccer players is now playing her final season. Megan Rapinoe announced she's going to retire at the end of this year. And that means this Women's World Cup, set to kick off in a couple of weeks, will be her last. Rapinoe has won 2 World Cups already, as well as an Olympic gold medal. And she's one of only a handful of national team players with more than 50 career goals and assists. Rapinoe is also an outspoken advocate for equal pay in women's soccer and a supporter of LGBTQ rights. In announcing her retirement, Rapinoe said, quote, "I feel incredibly grateful to have played as long as I have, to be as successful as we've been, and to have been part of a generation of players who undoubtedly left the game better than they found it." Her final World Cup kicks off July 20th and runs through August 20th. That's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, this episode is sponsored by ZocDoc. While I do think Google and social media can be helpful resources for gathering information and having good questions to ask, I definitely do not think they should be your go-to places for medical information and diagnoses. They can cause unnecessary anxiety and, to be honest, have questionable sources as so-called experts. So when I really need to know what's going on with my health or my family's health, I turn to trusted professionals with the credentials in that specific area instead of random people on the internet. And ZocDoc offers a great way to find some of those actual experts that are nearby, available, and take your insurance. Yes, ZocDoc is the only free app that lets you find and book doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, are available when you need them, and treat almost every condition under the sun. No more scouring the internet for unclear and conflicting answers. Join the millions of people already using this free app. Go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Money Monday. So this year, the rich just keep getting richer. The 500 most wealthy people in the world have added $852 billion to their wealth just in the first 6 months of 2023. And that's according to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index. Bloomberg looked at the data and found each person on the list made an average of $14 million a day over the first half of the year. Tesla, Twitter, and SpaceX owner Elon Musk actually earned so much money that his total net worth is now $243 billion. Most of his gains came from Tesla, and that puts him back on the top spot as the richest person in the world. For a while there, that spot was held by French magnate Bernie Arnault, who controls about 75 luxury brands like Louis Vuitton, Tiffany, and Dior. But there's been a recent slump in the luxury sector, so now he's back to number 2 on the list. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, Microsoft founder Bill Gates, and Oracle founder Larry Ellison round out the top 5. All right, thank you so much for listening today. And we are always so grateful if you can share the show with at least one person this week. Let them know why you listen and where to find it. We'll be back with much more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.